I want to take you down an unbelievable road here for a few minutes. I don't know if you have seen the reports now, but the CBC is combing through the illegally hacked database of Give, Send, Go donors. Okay, that's bad enough. But you need to understand the CBC is not like ABC. That's the Canadian broadcasting company, and it is funded by the state. This is a state. This is like the BBC. It's all funded by the state, so they do the state's bidding. So now you have the CBC and journalists going through an illegally hacked database of donors that gave to the truckers up in Canada and emailing them, calling them, and asking them to explain themselves.
And we should point out, the media keeps trying to justify this by using the term leaked. Like this was leaked data, as if like
It's
a whistleblower came out from inside the company. It was hacked and stolen.
Yeah. Remember, they wouldn't report on Hunter Biden's laptop because it might not be his, and they weren't sure it wasn't stolen. Well, we now know it wasn't stolen.
And it was his.
And it was his. And they wouldn't touch that because we don't handle things. We don't do things that we don't know if it's been illegally obtained. Well, you know this has. So now they are going through the $2 million of donations, and they're calling all of these donors. Why did you do it? Do you regret it? I'm happy to say the donors are not afraid of the CBC, and they're not afraid. The amazing thing is the donors that they have been calling have been saying, yep, I did it and I'd do it again. Why are you calling me? How did you get my information? Their financial information is all known by the government because of the emergency orders. These guys also, by the way, because of the Emergency Act that Trudeau imposed, they're comparing the blockades to terrorism. Really? They say it's an emergency because the blockades by both persons and motor vehicles is occurring at various locations throughout Canada and continuing to threaten and oppose measures to remove the blockades. They say that they have the potential for violence. There is no violence. Somebody did ram a car into a bunch of people in a truck. That was an Antifa person. It wasn't the truckers. It was aimed to stop the truckers. An Antifa person. Have you even heard that? So they have to remove the continuing threats. Okay. They say the blockades have the potential for violence for the purpose of achieving a political or ideological objective within Canada. Now, what does that make them? If you are using tactics that are dangerous and you're trying to achieve a political goal, why, that's terrorism. And if you gave to Give, Send, Go, well, why, you were funding a terrorist. Do you see how slippery this slope is? Now, the CBC is doxing. Twitter has come out and said, this is important information to have. I mean, we have to have it. Did anybody dox Antifa? Do you remember anyone calling Black Lives Matter people? Do you remember any stories? Because the New York Times has a story today about how, they were meeting in closed-door meetings in hotel rooms, planning all of this. These are the people that were really planning it. Do you remember hearing any of that except on this show or a conservative program that talked about who the real leaders were, what happens to the money, where is it actually going, why is it Black Lives or BLM Inc.? Who's incorporated this? We told you all that. They didn't find any any reason to, because as they were burning cities to the ground, they said that wasn't violence. But sitting in your truck is violence. So Twitter is involved, the mainstream media is involved, and of course we have YouTube. Let me play something, an interview that just happened. I think it was on Tide TV. It's a German program. Here is the president of YouTube talking about freedom of speech. Listen. Cut 9.
Well, first of all, I'll say that for, we work around the globe, and you're right, certainly there are many different laws in many different jurisdictions, and we enforce the laws of the various jurisdictions around speech or what's considered safe or not safe. That's true for democratically elected governments. It might get a little bit more complicated in non-democratically elected governments.
China,
and for the most part, so basically we enforce those laws. That actually hasn't been the controversial part. What has been the controversial part has been when there is content that would be deemed as harmful, but yet is not illegal. So an example of that, for example, would be COVID. Like, I'm not aware of there being laws by governments saying around COVID in terms of not being able to debate the efficacy of masks or where the virus came from or the right treatment or proposal, but yet there was a lot of pressure and concern about us distributing misinformation that went against what was considered the standard and accepted medical knowledge. And so this category of harmful but not but legal has been, I think, where most of the discussion has been.
Okay, so what do we do about that? Here's the next cut. 10.
We're not generating revenue for them, then that's a problem for our creators. They create beautiful and incredible content, and we share the majority of revenue with them. So basically that's like, so I think governments can always, our recommendation, if governments want to have more control over online speech, is to pass laws and have that be very cleanly and clearly defined such that we can implement it.
Okay, good. That's enough. So what is she saying there? She was mentioning advertisers, because she said advertisers start to pressure us and then we have to pull some speech down. So pressure from advertisers. Okay, so they put some speech down. But it would be so much easier if the government would just pass laws about speech, what is okay and what isn't. They're begging to do what they do in China. It's very easy in China. Takes all the worry out of YouTube. They can just sit there and make money. They don't have to worry about, geez, are we going to get backlash on this? We're going to be pulled into a hearing. They want the regulation on speech. Now, that sounds absolutely crazy, doesn't it? Sounds crazy. It would be like if a world leader liked dictatorships. That's crazy, right? Here's Justin Trudeau on dictatorships, especially China. Listen.
Even with Sun TV watching for any slip, he was asked which country he most admired and referred to China.
There's a level of admiration I actually have for China, because their basic dictatorship is allowing them to actually turn their economy around on a dime and say, we need to go green as fast as we need to start, investing in solar. I mean, there is a flexibility that I know Stephen Harper must dream about, of having a dictatorship that he could do everything he wanted.
Stop. Now, they said that offended Canadian Asians. I think that should offend all Canadians. He, by the way, was running against Stephen Harper. I think he caught himself at the end. Remember, the question is, what do you most admire? And so he says China, because of their dictatorship. They can get things done. That's something you need to remember, because that is what this administration, what business, what YouTube, what Twitter, Facebook, all of them love about China. They can get things done. They'll just spend the money. Oh, we need to work on AI? Great. Take all of that money and pour it into that. We don't have any more money? Great. Just print some more. Put it in that. And they get things done. They like dictatorships because they're elite. They think they know better than the invisible hand of all of us. So you have crazy statements from the media saying that, that they want the government to be able to give them more direction and more laws. Meanwhile, you've heard the New York Times talk about how dangerous the misinformation is from podcasts. They're going after podcasts. But what's happening on radio? Man, it's like it's almost deafening, the silence on talk radio, isn't it? Or is it? I want to play a couple of cuts here. I'm actually going to only have time for one. So let me play the second cut of the FCC commissioner that is now being questioned and will probably go through the incredible radical, and you will see why I say that, of Gigi Sohn, possible next commissioner of the FCC.
Senator Sullivan. Senator Sullivan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I don't even know where to begin here. I too am very disturbed. We had a discussion last hearing, Ms. Sohn, on your tweets. And look, we're not nominating you for any normal assistant secretary. You're you're going to be an FCC commissioner, enormous power. Particularly as it relates to free speech, particularly as it actually relates to liberty in our country. And I think Senator Scott raises some really important points, which is I don't see how you can be unbiased. Fox News is state-sponsored media, propaganda. Republicans know the only way they can win an election is to suppress the vote. These are yours. Here's a retweet. Your raggedy white supremacist president and his cowardly enablers would rather kill everybody than stop killing black people. That's a retweet. Damn, that's way out there, right? I mean, do you think most Republicans are racist and white supremacists?
Absolutely not, Senator Sullivan.
That's kind of what you're
No, I don't. I'm not familiar with that tweet, but I'm happy to look at it.
Remember retweeting that one?
I do not. I've tweeted probably over 10,000 times, so I don't remember.
Look, I think the average American,
stop.
whether you're...
All right. You don't retweet something like that without comment unless unless you agree with it, or you're drunk. And even if you're drunk, I know I'm an expert, I'm an alcoholic. Even if you're drunk, all that alcohol does is lower your inhibitions. It doesn't make you a racist. It takes down the shield that you put up to make sure that people don't think that about you. So even if that was a drunk retweet, that's very revealing. So you have social media clamping down. You have the FCC getting ready to clamp down. You have the Department of Homeland Security last week issuing the terrorism threat to the U.S. homeland is based on actors that seek to exacerbate societal friction, to sow discord and undermine public trust in government institutions and encourage unrest, and could potentially inspire acts of violence. Notice that is exactly what Justin Trudeau says about the truckers, that they could potentially inspire violence. The greatest threat to the nation, are those people that are proliferating false or misleading narratives which sow discord or undermine public trust in U.S. government institutions. Well, gang, that's anybody who doesn't play along with their game. That is why parents are now terrorists if you stand up against CRT. No. Take them at their word. If it's gone from, remember, first is nudge, then shove, then shoot. Well, where is the line? Once you're deemed a terrorist, what can they not do to you?